Gorgon. Very impressive background. She's a new media specialist, an attorney and educator. She currently teaches new media marketing at Full Sail University, and she hosts a podcast at Marketing Profs and writes on numerous sites, including the Huffington Post. Two publications have also named her top professor on Twitter. So great expert. Enjoy. Carrie, take it away.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today. I'm extremely excited to introduce my fellow panelists who are going to talk to you about the integration of search and social. And the reason I'm so excited is because we have three really accomplished experts, each with a slightly different angle on the field, so I think you'll enjoy hearing from them all. First, Simon Hesseltine, director at AOL, is responsible for organic search strategy and training across all AOL and Huffington Post Media Group properties, including TechCrunch, Huffington Post, and Patch.com. He also teaches SEO at Georgetown and writes a bi-monthly column on SEO and social for SearchEngineWatch.com. Here in the middle, we have Ann Tran. She's one of Forbes' top 20 women social media influencers for 2013, and one of their top 50 social media influencers, counting both men and women. So she's got it covered, let's put it that way. She's a well-known Twitter personality with more than 300,000 followers whose tweet-ups and events are some of the best attended anywhere. I've had the pleasure of attending some, and she's doing one Friday night, so check that out. There's a tweet bite, guys. Come on by. Anne writes for Huffington Post as well as her own blog at ann-tran.com. Finally, Rick Dragon, who just got here from Korea. He was in another conference in Korea, so thank you for making the trip and for being energized with your Rockstar energy drink. It's going to be an interesting session, guys. Buckle up. Rick is the author of Social Marketing and the Dragon Search Online Marketing Manual. He's also a regular guest columnist for Marketing Land and Social Media Monthly. We're pleased to have them with us today. Please welcome my panelists. So I'm going to pose some questions of the panel. They'll answer each question, and when we wrap it up, we'll absolutely have time to take questions from you. So as we go forward, maybe make a couple of notes, because I promise you won't find better experts than these to answer your questions. So the integration of search and social media. Why should marketers focus on the integration of search and social?
Well, if I just answer
I would like Simon to open it up with a joke and perhaps a dance, and then answer that.
So I think the first thing that we have to address in the introductions is how come Rick's not writing for Huffington Post yet? It appears that everybody else is.
I have Ariana's email address.
Yes.
I saw that photo. I don't think I'm on. So why should people care about the integration of social and search? I mean, they are so intertwined these days. Google has put such a push behind Google+. You can't really do much online if you're trying to get organic traffic without playing with Google+. If you're over on Bing, the integration they have with Facebook, you just see different search results. The personalization of search has come such a long way over the last few years that you can rank for things in search now without really ranking for them like you would have done in the past. But because of your social networks, because of your social influence. And we have seen, with some of our brands that they're getting some really nice traffic coming from Google+, coming just because they have those networks built out there. So you absolutely need to make sure that you're looking at those. And it is also, Google created this link economy back in the day, where everybody cared about links. A link is a vote for your site. And links were such a huge part of it that, of course, everybody started gaming links. They started building links from here, there, and everywhere. Crappy links that didn't mean anything. We had these link exchange programs, these link farms, and then Google came and put their foot down and moved that line. Well, as social had become such more of an influence on search results, the link economy has started going away. In fact, this morning it was noticed that Google has changed their recommendations for ranking to not say go get good quality links. They now say put good quality content out there. So they're really moving away from that link economy into more of the social. I mean, social does play a lot more. And it's not just Google+. I mean, they're also looking at Facebook. They're also looking at Twitter. They're looking at the shares, the influence. and having that influence your own search results. So.
Yeah, there's this whole rel equals auth code, that Google has come out with, so you can actually tag content with the author, and that links back to your Google Plus page, and we're seeing that rise in importance incredibly. So of course, if your content does have your little picture next to it in the search results, that tends to be clicked on more. It also helps tie in your content to you, and a whole cloud of relationships that the author has. Those signals can influence the importance of a page in search as well. So it's dealing with what we call entities. Author is another entity, publisher is an entity, and Google is adding more and more concepts of entity to content, or that Google is looking at.
Oh, there was one article, I think about 2 weeks ago, where a guy wrote, I implemented auth, so I have the author stuff there, I implemented it, and my traffic dropped. It must be because I'm ugly. Well, Matt Cutts, who is the head of spam, the head of the knowledge team over at Google, came back and said, no, actually you didn't really implement it right. Here's what you need to do, here's how you need to change it. And we did actually, we actually had a bad situation yesterday where, there are different ways that you can notify Google as to who the author is by tying it into the Google Plus account. Google's also trying to do that themselves, and they're not necessarily doing a great job of it. Unfortunately, there was a blogger who passed away yesterday morning or the night before, a guy who wrote for BuzzFeed and for HuffPost. So we wrote his obituary in the Huffington Post, and we didn't put a byline on it. Google decided, we recognize the name in the post, there's no byline there, so we're going to credit him as writing his own obituary. Like, no! So we got that fixed. But I mean, and from what Rick was saying, Google has come out and said implementing author is absolutely vital because they are looking at author profiles as part of that ranking analysis. If you have a well-known author, if you have a well-known writer, and they write for a no-name blog, that no-name blog has a much greater chance of ranking now because of their profile.
For what it's worth, I mean, I wrote my obituary. I don't know why anybody wouldn't. Of course, mine says I'm an international underwear model. But someday it could happen. So, Anne, what's been your experience using search and social? Because your posts get incredible traffic across the different social networks, and I know you do some things to optimize that visibility.
Well, it's interesting because initially I was mainly focusing on Twitter and Facebook. And a client had the 6-month series where we were to promote their brand. And I was getting a lot of retweets and tractions and Facebooks and likes, etc. And I figured, okay, I'm ahead of the game, right? So I did a search for myself, and I realized I wasn't, the hashtag wasn't linked to me. So I started entering on Google+. So moving forward, if you do a search on, let's say, Edgar DC, all my videos, my posting and retweets, predominantly actually all me. So Google Plus is definitely something that you don't want to ignore.
You have an unusually large social media audience. Would you say that that's helped your posts to gain prominence?
Say again?
You have such a large social media audience. Would you say that's helped your posts to gain prominence?
Not always, because it's about the content, it's quality, like they said. So for me, when I had my series of the top 10 bloggers, when I'm getting 10 different perceptions and different ideas, that, you've got your 10 bloggers working for you, so they're sharing with their social media ecosystem, etc. So you're not doing as much work, and also you're highlighting your peers.
So how do search and social work together to support your marketing goals when now, as Ariana Huffington said this morning, people are switching from searching for information to searching for meaning? How can you leverage that? I just said leverage. I hate the word leverage. How can we take advantage of that changing mindset?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's pivot for a second. You're going to use...
See how many more buzzwords I can work in.
Anybody playing buzzword bingo out there gave you one.
Well, that was low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. So, it's interesting, when these computers, personal computers first came around, And, we were using them for spreadsheets, and then they connected them to those wonderful, 2400 baud modems and made the fun sound. And all of a sudden they were communication devices also. But computers still are both worlds. They're devices, they're tools, they're also communication tools. And the web started off as being the content web. And tons of content. Pages were linked to one another. Google indexed pages. And now we're having the people web, the social web is tying all into that. And they're not necessarily silos. They fit together. People create content, they share content, they talk about content. And I think as marketers, the more that we can recognize how these things are integrated and really use them in ways that are creative, of course it's going to help us appear to be more relevant, appear to be more contextual. So, and hopefully we can get beyond appearance and actually create relevance and context.
Now I'm going to ignore your question and go to what Anne said before. So you were talking about content being king. You've got to have that great content. So here's how social helps you from that perspective. If you think about SEO, with SEO, content is king. That's fantastic. You've got to have great content. But if your site isn't crawlable, if you screwed it up, and the search engines can't get to it, or they can't find sections of your site, they can't index it right, you're doing something wrong, you've got all these duplicate content issues, you can have issues ranking within the search engines. In social, that's not the case. You're out there, you're sharing it on these different networks. If your content is great, it's being shared, it goes viral, people are sharing it. It doesn't matter whether it's not crawlable to the search engines. And because of what Google's doing with Google+, because of what Bing's doing with Facebook, it's going to show up in the search results based on your circles, based on your friends. So, content, social really helps having great content. Whereas for, the regular web, for SEO, you've still got to have, you're going to have those technical issues, whether or not you're actually fixing them. So it's going to make it harder for people to get to your content if you don't fix those actual crawlability problems.
And I think,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Anne.
and I think also, just besides having great content, the PR companies are starting to approach my team to help them and work with them and help them understand what social media is about. So, my tweet up in DC, the one that you both are invited, by the way. And
They were so offended that they weren't invited. I'm like, it's in public.
So it's officially here. So you have to be creative. So my first event, I did a Toys for Tot. Because you want to have some sort of meaning to the event. You have to get, why do I want to come to your event? What am I going to get out of it? And then the second event, I partnered with Social Media Week, which I offer people want to know how to get more followers. So that was my tagline. So there, people are going to get excited. What's the secret sauce, right? So I incorporated a video. So for those who weren't able to come, then they can watch the video later. So you want to use different platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc. And on the third one, I created a photo contest where the attendees get to participate, and then I shared it all the different platforms, and people that weren't able to enjoy it across the globe, not just in the DC area. It was a Cherry Blossom DC contest. They're like, oh, could I enter it? I said, sorry, not this round, etc. But the thing is, you want to engage with your audience, and you want them to want to go to your event or watch your event. And now it's interesting because the event was like 3 months ago. I'm still seeing retweets from today from this event. So you want to create evergreen quality content too.
For people who think that Twitter can't make you famous, I was at a party with Anne at South by Southwest, and someone heard me introduce her to someone else and came over and said, I follow you on Twitter. And they were with us the whole night. So it can make you famous, can, does, has. And if you want to hang with somebody famous, you can go to the Edgar DC tweet up. What role should local search and mobile play?
From a social perspective?
Either or.
Or just
Whatever you got. Take it.
Well, mobile from an SEO perspective has, it's tightened up over the last few years. Hands up how many people have a .mobi on their site? Yeah, nobody. How many people still have an M. of their site? Anybody? Nobody does an M.
They're not going to admit it now.
So has everybody moved to responsive design for their websites? Yeah. So Google and Bing both came out, about 18 months ago, and said that's the preferred way to go. You have to do responsive design regardless of what device you're on. It's the same website, the same URL. It's going to look fantastic. Before that, I mean, they had different constructs out there without getting too technical. They have things called canonical tags that would allow you to say which was the right form of the URL you wanted in the search results. But by going responsive, that's really cleared things up from an SEO perspective.
And you got to watch out that you don't do this horrible thing that some people do, and that is all of their content, any page, it detects the users on mobile and sends them to the mobile homepage. Worst thing you can do for mobile SEO.
Well,
If you're doing that, go home and fix it.
That's like a bugbear of mine. If you're on a mobile device, you hit go to desktop view. You go to desktop view, great. I'm on the homepage for the desktop. I now click on an article. It sends me back to the homepage for the mobile. Because it's detected on my mobile device again. It's not sending a
one of the
cookie.
worst things you can do.
Anne's stuff always looks great because she uses really glossy photographs.
But all you have to do is, if you look at your own web stats and the traffic origins, you see desktop is going down, mobile is going up. I mean, these two trends are there. They're obvious. Matt at SMX, Matt Cutts, the search guy from Google, was almost every other word was guys, mobile. Watch out. This is the big change of the year, mobile.
Now, one thing for people to be aware of that you may not necessarily be aware of, if you look in your analytics and you see that your mobile numbers aren't increasing as much as you thought they might have done, that's because Apple, in their wisdom, with iOS 6 and Safari searches, they decided not to pass the referrer string across. So anybody who's searching for your site on iOS 6 on Safari, it's going into tagged bookmarked rather than going into mobile. So you might actually be getting more organic traffic than you know about. There's no solution for that at the moment.
I don't get it. I started out as a lawyer, so. But suffice it to say that there might be more good news in regards to mobile than some businesses realize.
I wanted to add, for me, sometimes I want to check in. Let's say I'm at a conference, I just want to say hi, I want to retweet someone just so they know that I'm still here. And I'm looking on my phone, and if the upload takes too long, I was like, forget it, I'm done. So you're losing an opportunity, to have your website shared. So that's what you want to focus on. And you guys can talk in details on that.
Well, one thing I want to mention, Google for the last few years has been pushing the concept of improving your page speed for your regular site. You want to get that page speed below, 5-6 seconds if you can. They're doing the same thing with mobile. They want to push mobile so you're getting your page speed down to a really good level.
Faster than your desktop.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I think they're looking about 1 second.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have 2 seconds and I'll move on.
Yeah. Because people are, we're very ADD these days. We're very, very fleeting. We don't want to wait. We don't want to sit around. We're not on that 2400 baud modem waiting for the AOL guy to jump on and say welcome.
Do any of you know how responsive is responsive? So maybe your site will look good on anything, but people searching for your site on mobile sometimes or often want to do different things than if they were accessing it from a desktop or from a laptop computer. So can you address that with responsive web design? Can certain content be elevated?
Well, intent is something that Google is doing a lot with these days. They're trying to determine what your intent is when you're actually doing a search. So if they can determine your location, so they know you're in Jacksonville, Florida, and you search for pizza, they're going to give you a places one box that says, here are the pizza places in Jacksonville, because that's what we know you're looking for. You're not looking for the Wikipedia page on pizza. So they can determine your intent from, based on things like location. Based on past searches, they put out this voice search thing not that long ago in Chrome. I couldn't get it working. I don't know if you played with it, either of you. But basically, the idea of this thing was that you do this voice search in your Chrome browser, and it's going to kind of build on the past searches you've done.
Oh, I've seen that. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I tried the same examples they gave, and it didn't work.
Did you do the Obama example?
Yeah, I did the Obama example. So basically, you do a search for who is the current president of the United States. How tall is he? And it would pop up and say, President Obama is however tall he is. What's his wife's name? It would pull up information based on that kind of, basically the flow of the searches that you've been doing. So they are looking at intent, they're looking at what you've done before, they're looking at that. And from a matter of personalization of your results, I mean, they're looking at what you've clicked on before. Now, they can be looking at what you've clicked on from the perspective of being within that individual browser before, or they can be looking at it from the perception of, from the state of when you've been logged into your Google account anywhere, what have you searched on, what have you clicked on? And they will tailor your search results based on that, because they know kind of what you're looking for, what you're trying to do, based on your past history.
So I want to back up just a quick second when you talk about, do you serve up a responsive design site, or should you serve up a mobile version of your site? And depending on the organization, it's always going to depend on the business. There's instances where serving up a responsive version of your website is the best thing because you're only having to manage one set of content. And unless your organization has a very robust content management system, that can be very challenging. People end up forgetting about that other version. So having responsive design is the best. Some organizations where you have a robust content management system and you know that the desktop user is going to be using the site very differently than the mobile user, then you want to create the unique mobile site that serves their purpose. Otherwise, you're hiding a lot of content that the user still has to download, and that there's a lot of calls. And on each call that the browser makes to the server takes more time, and thus, if you follow all that, you're not going to end up in search as well for mobile search.
And make sure whatever versions you're serving up, you're not serving up a completely different version to Google. Because Google does not like that.
No.
They will get mad at you. I mean, the famous example is BMW. BMW was banned from the search results for 3 days in 2006 because they cloaked. They served a different page to Google than they served to the world because they wanted to game Google. They got found out. They came crawling over broken glass to beg for re-inclusion because, of course, it was a rogue marketing agency that had done this. It's always the rogue ones.
Well, after that, they're like, that person's a rogue. They're not going to say they're a respected professional in our industry at that point. So what advice would you offer marketers? Are there opportunities they should be aware of to enable them to use search and social to better advantage, aside from don't have a separate site for Google?
Well, you jump in.
Okay. Well, I see a lot with PR joining with social media, so I'm getting a lot more requests to work with them. So this is the time where you want to maximize and work with the team and to amplify your campaign or your client or a project that you're working on or a fundraiser. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to work with social media, SEO, marketing, work as a team to get your message out.
I think another thing we can do, I'll say in our own shop, in our own organization, it's a digital marketing agency, but we started off in the search marketing era, and then social came along, and we would have a group of people over here, oh, you're the social people, and oh, you guys over there, these guys, they're the SEO guys, right? And then something was wrong with that. They weren't integrated. And so we've really made a conscious effort in the past 2 years to integrate these people because they're working together. Now, one of the things I recommend is if you create a wonderful piece of content, a new blog post, then go to the whiteboard and think about how you can spread that out through different media in a content marketing sort of mindset. How can I repurpose that? How can I share it in different ways? You definitely don't want to syndicate across social media using tools to just mass, copy the same thing to Twitter as you do on Facebook. That's fundamentally flawed. You want to repurpose things so that they fit each medium.
Sorry, I was looking for Calvin, a friend of mine that does that all the time. I guess he stayed away. He must have known I'd pick on him.
Speaking of Calvin.
Calvin,
I don't think he's here.
Oh, well, he is the master of, I think, PR, social media. I wish he was here.
At Mayhem Studios.
Misty and Marty, make sure you tweet that, okay? So, but I mean, watch his stream. He's everywhere, and he's so lovable, likable, and he does it naturally. He's like a PR machine, to quote Misty McPadden. So, yes.
I was just reading a study about how adoption is increasing among, it was particular to B2B marketers, but I imagine you could extrapolate that to marketers in about every industry. So adoption of all these different approaches, so email marketing, but also social media, and to an extent, a little bit more edgy stuff with mobile, is seeing increased adoption. Are there still areas where a business can strike out and make a really good impression, get a good foothold in a newer and growing area that will help them to gain a competitive advantage?
I think with, the brand ambassadors, they're working with big, huge team, like about 60 to 100 people, and they tap into the social media, ecosystem of their sources. And, we're friends, so if I post a camera, let's say when I won that sample galaxy, they know you and they trust you. So now we're the voice. So now we're ambassadors for these big corporations, and I see a lot of this going on, and it seems to work because I was at an event and I saw a person with the same camera as me. I was like, hey, we have the same camera. She's like, yes, I read your post, that's why I bought it. And so, that, of course, I was like, please put that comment so I can share it. And then she goes, oh, you just wrote a post about the phone, I'm gonna get that. So, this is working, obviously. So, and then there are those that you don't even know if the person might have bought something because of your blog post.
So Simon, is there something you think is underused at this point that could help somebody really to jump ahead?
Well, it really depends on your brand. It depends on where the audience is for your brand. Obviously, Google Plus is something that we've been thinking about which brands really want to be involved with that. Who could it work for? Obviously with Google Plus, it tends to be more of a tech-heavy crowd. At least that's what it's been up until now. So our tech-heavy sites have done pretty well over there. TechCrunch, Engadget, even the auto sites have done fairly well over there. But other sites, not necessarily so much right now. But we are seeing Google Plus increasing. And in fact, there was a study released today by Search Metrics, which is a German company, on Marketing Land this morning, where they talked about that they believe by 2014 that we'll be seeing more traffic coming from Google Plus than we are from Facebook, just based on the current trends. But again, it depends on where your audience is. If your audience isn't there, then go ahead and reserve the namespace. But you don't necessarily need to put your resources in there. Go wherever it is. If you're a site that's doing, like Kitchen Daily, one of our sites which does recipes, maybe Pinterest is a better place for them than Google Plus right now. But as things move around, you never know. Obviously we're not sending many people to MySpace these days, or Dig.
No, can get them at a bargain. We did want to leave time for questions. Does anybody have questions? If not, I'll press on.
Well, one question I have is, if we're all experts, why
You're on the panel.
why weren't we in the video at the beginning?
Because maybe they just taped you today and you'll be in a future one. I don't know. Maybe. Anyone have questions for the panel? Yes, you're in the front.
Regarding responsive design and designing for responsive design, my understanding is the size of video or any kind of graphic or photos may appear, you need to size it for a...
They can be resized using code.
Is that in the responsive system that does it automatically?
Well,
versus
it's part of the scripting you write for the page.
Okay.
Yes.
So will images display properly with responsive web design? I guess good, but still you have to take a nice picture. They can't fix that, can't fix everything. It's not like Photoshop. Other questions? Yes, right here in the second row. Oh, I'm sorry. You had an eye-catching blouse. It's a very nice color.
When we're talking getting rankings and SEO, photographs, when you're putting up images, you talked about aggregation as far as going across different platforms, change the content slightly or whatever. What about images? If I've got images for my company, I want to get up there, should I post the same image on every single social media site, Google+, Facebook, or is that a no-no? Is that going to hurt?
You can do it, but I would do it at different time intervals. Otherwise, because when I have time to jump on my social media pages, I've got 6 tablets open, I jump boom, 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 boom. And then I'm looking at across, it's like the same picture, so change up the time when you print it. post it. And also change the caption. Make sure the caption is something like a title where it's going to catch my attention, or I want to read it, or it makes me laugh that I want to share, something that's going to hit you personally.
And also, look how those images look on different platforms. So go in and physically look and see, is the formatting, does some formatting look different and better on Facebook than it does on Twitter? And do things, for instance, like superimposing text on the image work better on Facebook than it does, perhaps on LinkedIn. So look at stop. I think all of us, when we're doing social, we don't look and audit our own work and see how it looks on those systems. And I think that would benefit you there with those images. I don't think it's a no-no to use the same images across platforms, but like Ann says, mixing it up and certainly changing the captions would be a must.
And go A/B test. See what types of images work on different platforms. You may find that, on Facebook, pictures with people in them work great, whereas on Google Plus, pictures of tractors or something else works well for you. So see what works well. Look because you're going to potentially have different types of content going over there anyway. You may make some a link out. You may make something a question, a poll, depending on the different how the audience interacts with you.
Exactly. Are you using every single social media platform just as a broadcast? Are you using them the same way? It's unlikely. For instance, in my organization, we use Facebook. If you go onto our company's Facebook page, you're going to say, wow, what a cool place. I want to work there. They have cake all the time, right? Because it really is it's a great place for HR getting a sense of our company. And if a client or a potential client sees the page, there's no shame. We're not running around with lampshades on our head. But really, it's other platforms that we use more for thought leadership work or more client-facing. So I don't know that I would simply reuse a photograph in all those different places because it's unlikely I'm going to create the same content for all those places. But that's our organization.
But if you are eating cake all the time, you probably do want to do some running.
Calvin Lee, everybody, our friend we're just talking about. Thanks for joining us, Calvin. I said earlier, Calvin, are you coming to my panel? And he said, well, what's it about? I said, why do you care? Shut up, sit down. My friend, jeez. Everybody's a critic.
Welcome to the party, Calvin.
There was another question. Oh, you've got it. Excellent.
Yvette McKechnie with AMA DC, American Marketing Association DC. Going to mobile, there's been a very large push to mobile, and one of the big pushes was to have an app that was specific to your site. Are we moving away from having the app and moving away from the M. blah, 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 and now we're doing more of a responsive design? And what can you tell about moving away from a mobile, app, native app, and how it relates to everything?
Okay, that was 5 questions.
You guys are so wonderful and talented, so I figure you guys can handle it, and the audience wants to hear it, right, guys?
Personally, when I'm on my phone, I will go to my movie phone app. I won't go to moviephone.com. I still use the apps. I think apps are still very worthwhile.
But how many companies have made apps that you don't use? In fact, the percentage of organizational apps that get downloaded and not used, I think, is well over 95%, the studies show. People make the most stupid apps. Stop making stupid stuff. There is so much stupid stuff in the web. We should all wake up every day and say, how can we make the web a better place? So if your company can make an app that really adds value, Charmin makes a wonderful app called Sit or Squat. Anywhere you go out there in the world, and you moms with kids, I know you're going to want this app, and I'm looking for a potty, you want Sit or Squat. And you can upload, places that you think are good places. That's a smart app.
I didn't want to know where you think are good places, Rick. Thank you. Let's ease up on the rock star. What's interesting to me about the Charmin app in particular is that Sit or Squat was developed by an independent developer, and Charmin bought it because they looked around and thought, you know what, we're just not going to do better than that. That's it. That's the app that we need. What do you think about web applications, Simon?
Well, I was just saying, I just noticed that Rick's opened all 4 of these energy drinks.
I know, right?
These are very small.
hope he doesn't finish them. I don't know what he'll do to Elizabeth Moss. So web applications, if we're talking about responsive web design and your content you're developing it so that it displays appropriately across different platforms and on different devices, could you not do the same with an application and have the application just live on your website and work for everybody?
I mean, if you look at Huffington Post, we have the Huffington Post app, we have the Huffington Post magazine app, and we also have responsive design on the site. I mean, to be honest, the Huffington Post website did not look great when you went to the mobile version of it, up until about 2 months ago when they put out what I think is a really nice, slick version of it.
Is that coincidentally when they hired you?
I've been there 4 years now. I've been there pre-Huff. But I mean, it looks really nice now. So I think responsive design is absolutely fantastic. It really makes things easier for your SEO as well, because we don't have to mess around with these M dots. If you don't, what I mentioned canonicals before, if these canonical tags weren't in place, you had the potential for the wrong version of your URL getting indexed in Google, and it just gets to be a complete and utter mess. You could have duplicate content issues, and it's just, So responsive really does make things easier for us, and it makes things easier for the search engines. They no longer have to go out and crawl these multiple versions of the same pages that just have a different look and feel. They just crawl the one version of it, and they index the one version.
We're coming to the end of our time. I wanted to see if there was another question.
Thank you. Jeannie Hill with Hill Web Creations. It seems like responsive design is just being so widely adopted and is so exciting. I find myself struggling in my contracts to cover it because as fast as I get it done, I'm suggesting what next I need to do to a client. Could you address how we actually get the work of responsive design done in a way that... And for example, with TV screens perhaps just right around the corner, what point can we build in fluidity into our contracts and expect to cover the pace of responsive design?
Well, I mean, I want to jump in and just say, Google makes, 500 changes to the algorithm a year. If you look, there was an announcement at the conference Rick was at last week at SNX about mobile. So, I mean, they made some changes to improve the user experience around mobile. And one of them being that they don't like interstitial pages. So if you have interstitial pages, you may not rank as highly as somebody who doesn't have those interstitials pushing them to your app. So now people are trying to think of different ways that they can manage that they can push people gently towards their app without having to have that little page pop up first. Google puts their foot down, and we just have to say, how high do you want us to jump?
I think too, yes, it's a really great question. How do we keep up with the pace of change? Because it has accelerated, there's no doubt about that. But I think if we adopt the philosophy that Google has promulgated, and that is, let's work to create the best experience, the best content possible, and we're constantly focused on how do our customers, or our readers, or our audience, and how do we give them the best experience possible, they'll be forgiving of you not necessarily being the latest and best on certain technologies, but they'll be totally forgiving of that if you have great content.
Looks like that's all the time we have, but before we wrap it up, I wanted to give you a chance to follow everyone on Twitter. We have Rick Dragon, that's RICDRAGON. Ann Tran, ANNTRAN _, and Simon Hesseltine, just like it sounds. And I'm Carrie Gorgon, so feel free to follow up with questions, and I know we're going to come out with a blog post that summarizes some of the things we've talked about today. Thank you so much for joining us.